Okay, I know a lot of you out there are probably wondering, what is sociology? I mean, heck, I was there about 3.5 months ago. I had no clue what it was. I couldn't tell you what the difference between sociology was or psychology. But looking into it a little bit further, it's not even that hard. But before we get into that, let me get to something a little bit more comfortable. Ah, that's better. So, sociology. Starting out with it, what is sociology? Well, defined in simple terms, sociology is the study of how people behave and interact with each other inside of an environment. So, what does that mean exactly? Well, it could mean, why is someone doing this for what specific reason? Or a different kind of mindset towards an idea or a thing, basically. So, before we can go any further, we have to go back to the beginning. So, this guy right here is C. Wright W. Mills. C. Wright W. Mills was a sociologist and that lived from 1916 to 1962. So, why is he important? Well, C. Wright Mills invented this little thing called social imagination. Social imagination is the understanding of social reality and how we can relate our own personal experiences into a broader idea, and how we can incorporate this idea that we are able to make an impact on society via three different ways. What are those three different ways? Well, the three different ways of sociology are the three main topics in what we're going to cover today. So, starting out, we have structural functionalism. Structural functionalism is mainly a traditional mindset towards sociology and different ideas and tasks. Next, conflict theory. Exactly what it sounds like. Conflict theory is the conflict of ideas when maybe one has a beneficial and one has a negative, and flip-flopped in reverse. And lastly, symbolic interactionism. Symbolic interactionism is exactly how it feels. A symbol is basically relating to a certain topic and whatever. So, for starting off, structural functionalism. What is structural functionalism? So, structural functionalism is basically in which a society is a system that is organized of specific tasks and roles in order to achieve a common goal, such as government, religion, or family. For an example, a government has a president, a legislation, and a judicial system, all in order has specific tasks in order to make the country work, such as president, legislation, and judicial. Moving on, next we have family. Family, everybody has a part in a family, especially in a traditional role, such as in the early 1900s. First, you had your male breadwinners, your father. Next, you had your stay-at-home, more of a comfort role and emotional task role of the mother. And lastly, children. Children have multiple task roles, and it can't be argued of what their responsibility was. For an example, a child might be helping their father work out in the field, or they could be task orientated for doing chores or any other individual task around the house. So, moving on, some people that we could bring up here would be Emily Durkheim. She, for an example, was able to see how social institutions were necessary for social cohesion. Moving on, Tozo Parsons, instituting the fulfilling need that we need these institutions in order to maintain social systems. And me personally, I can look at it from the baseball standpoint. A baseball team has 9 different players. It has a pitcher, a catcher, infielders, and outfielders. Each one of them have a specific task in order to get this job done. For an example, me as a pitcher, my job is to throw the ball and allow the batter to hit it. And my part, I'm supposed to rely on the others as well to have my back and field the ball. For an example, if a ground ball is hit to the shortstop, I'm putting faith that he is going to do his structural functionalism job of getting me out. Each individual task are basically an acquiring line on each other and relying on the aspect of trust and functionalism in between the communities. So, what is it called if it becomes a conflict? Well, conflict theory basically sums it up. So, conflict theory. What is conflict theory? Well, a quick definition of conflict theory is it suggests that society is characterized by competition and conflict over scarce resources and societal structures are maintained through power. For example, a really big idea of this and common use would probably be the Nazi regime party, or even looking into communism. Bringing me to my next point, Karl Marx. Karl Marx is technically a founder of the conflict theory. Well, what did Karl Marx do? Well, Karl Marx, right here, he created Marxism, which was later transmitted into the idea of communism, created by caused by the Soviet Union. Well, everybody knows communism isn't good because it technically belittles everybody to the same standpoint of ideas, and so everybody's equal. So it looks good on paper, but whenever it works in real life, it doesn't work as well. So an example of this could be in society, a person coming out as gay. That has a conflict theory because one, they don't want to be accepted, they are afraid that they might not be accepted, and then two, they also want to be accepted, so it's a conflict because it's scary. You have two tasks. Either A, they can come out as live their life, they can be open with it, or B, they're going to have to hide it, but they also don't risk that idea of getting made fun of or being titled as an outsider. So, conflict theory. One thing about me that I've noticed with conflict theory, especially this year, is the sacrifices between going to parties and celebrations or studying. At one point, I can go to a party, I can relax, have a great time, or I can stay inside and study and try to further my education and eventually complete the task of what I was coming here for to college, which was to get a degree and hopefully one day get a successful job. So, moving on to the last topic, symbolic interactionism is actually a micro-level sociology idea. What does that mean? Well, it means we can compress it down and mainly focus it on a specific topic. So, what is symbolic interactionism? Well, it's a society theory that focuses on the perception and idea of how we interpret symbols and create these ideas and logos, for an example, such as the Nike logo. If you see a Nike logo, you're typically going to associate that with athletic, rich, maybe wealthy, or overall just an idea of this brand idea. So a perfect example in a real life scenario would be social media. Instagram, Facebook, or even Twitter can all relate to this idea. As people, we all like something or heart it whenever we like it. That doesn't mean we love it, but that means we can relate to it personally on a personal note. Another thing we might be doing is a thumbs down. Well, everybody knows you don't want a thumbs down on your video, but that means you don't like it. So whenever you don't like something, you might as well put something as in a sad face or a crying emojis to show that you're disappointed or sad. But moving on, some important founders would be George Meade. George Meade was the main founder, and his idea of self-developed through social interaction is a main idea of symbolic interactionism. So using a Nike logo and creating maybe an idea of a conversation in between that, or going on and finding something like your favorite bag. So like Prada, for example, having two women maybe discuss a Prada bag. Next would be Blumberg. Blumberg coined the term of social interactionism and mainly had the idea of how it's able to basically go through the human interaction and with each other. So on a personal note, I can relate this to my baseball team as well. So with my baseball team, the symbol of a team is the idea maybe that we aren't, other people might coin it with other things. So for an example, we might see a bunch of athletic jocks or something like that. But furthermore, I see it as a team and a community that I'm able to go into and I'm able to relate to. I'm able to fall back on them in a family aspect. So as well, in a structuralism, functionalism mindset, I'm able to rely on them as well for other things outside of baseball. So overall, we discussed the main three ideas of sociology: structuralism, functionalism, conflict theory, and symbolic interactionism. So overall, looking at this idea of how society views behaviors and how we can relate to each other, how can these three ideas